The Temple of Artemis, located in Ephesus in what is now modern-day Turkey, was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Originally constructed in the 6th century BC and rebuilt multiple times after destruction, it was an enormous and richly decorated temple dedicated to the goddess Artemis. In Civilization 6, the Temple of Artemis provides the following bonuses: +4 food, +3 housing, and each camp, pasture and plantation improvement within 4 tiles of this wonder provides +1 amenity. To me, the Temple of Artemis seems to be an instance where the developers didn't assign the bonuses according to the historical wonder itself, but rather a specific aspect that the wonder is related to. In this case, this would be the ancient Greek goddess Artemis. Artemis in Greek mythology is the goddess of the hunt, one of the most widely worshipped among the Olympian gods, and the Temple of Ephesus was by far the largest temple erected in her name. She was the goddess of wild animals, vegetation, the hunt, childbirth, and many other things, mostly related to nature. We can immediately connect this with the bonus amenity given to the camps, pastures, and plantations. These style improvements in Civ 6 relate to how humanity can extract goods from nature, be it hunting, animal husbandry, gathering, or cultivating. Now, why would this wonder provide amenity instead of faith? I think I have an explanation, but it's a little bit of a roundabout one, so stay with me here. Amenities in Civ 6 represent happiness, stability, and population satisfaction in general. It's a safe assumption that a civilization that would worship Artemis to the extent of constructing such a large temple for her would have developed a very deep connection with nature. The argument would be that this deeper connection would not be constricted within the temple's confines, but would reflect a more general attitude towards the civilization's approach to resource extraction. Hunting, gathering, and cultivating would not be seen as just a means to survival, nor as a religious endeavor on their own, but as an integrated part of the society structure that would provide its own form of societal cohesion and stability. In fewer words, worship of Artemis would not be as much a religious affair as it would be a general reflection of the civilization's interaction with natural resources as part of the greater balance. The bonus to food can also be explained as a side effect of this societal attitude, since it's fair to assume that a greater understanding of nature would come with increased expertise in the ways of resource extraction. The bonus to housing gives me a nice excuse to finally talk about the actual wonder itself. Housing in Civ 6 seems to reflect employment, or at the very least, sizable structures. The third and final iteration of the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus was one of the largest temples of the ancient world, and supposedly the first Greek temple made out of marble. Featuring 127 columns and encompassing an area of roughly 6,000 square meters, it earned its place as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It goes without saying that a structure as grand as this would require a large and permanent workforce to maintain it, not to mention all the priests and other auxiliary positions. The wonder requires the archery technology. This is once again most likely a reference to the goddess Artemis herself, rather than the actual wonder. As mentioned, Artemis was a deity of many things, but by far the most characteristic aspect of her was that of the hunt. This is the reason why Artemis's most prominent symbol is the bow, so the connection with archery is pretty one-to-one. However, there is a little bit of a mix-up, which comes to light when we dig just a little bit deeper. The Temple of Artemis in Ephesus was not exactly dedicated to Artemis as most commonly depicted today. Instead, it was dedicated to the Ephesian Artemis, which was a distinctive form of the goddess, at least from the ancient Greeks' perspective. While the core of the two depictions largely remained the same, it is worth noting that the Ephesian Artemis seems to be more rooted to Middle Eastern and Egyptian Mother Earth deities, with a larger emphasis on nurturing and protecting. Something that can be seen even in her depictions. The multiple orbs protruding from her chest are interpreted as breasts, figs, or even bull testicles. Just a small side note that I thought was worth mentioning. The wonder must be built next to a camp. We can again explain this through the Artemis connection, since camps is the tile improvement most closely connected to wildlife, used to improve resources like deer, pelts, and truffles. I think I have already explained the relation of Artemis and her worshippers with nature, so the connection is justified. However, I couldn't find evidence of hunting grounds being present near the temple, so having the wonder be adjacent to a camp is a bit too restrictive in my opinion, disregarding any gameplay reasons for it.
When I saw the house of Artemis that mounted to the clouds, those other marvels lost their brilliancy, and I said, Lo, apart from Olympus, the sun never looked on aught so grand.
The in-game quote comes from Antipater of Sidon, an ancient Greek poet. The poem makes one of the earliest known references to the 7 wonders of the ancient world, where Antipater makes it apparently clear that the Temple of Artemis is his favorite, so that must count for something. How Civ 6 handles the Temple of Artemis is a bit interesting to me. It clearly shows emphasis on the attributes of Artemis as a deity, rather than the temple itself as a monument and place of worship. In doing so, it does disregard some of the most unique aspects of the Temple of Artemis that could have been showcased otherwise. Something I found of note is that the temple itself was remade 3 times on the same exact location, before being destroyed each time in very different circumstances. Alexander the Great even offered to pay for the temple's final construction, but the Ephesians refused him, saying that it would be improper for one god to build a temple to another.